All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So Dante Moore decided to remain in school, right? Sticking with Oregon through 2026. But here's the deal. It is what it is, and the Jets got to move on. You know, I was a believer in Dante Moore's skill set. I still am, right? There's a chance that he could be the Jets quarterback in 2027, right? When he decides to enter the NFL draft. But if Dante Moore did declare and he was on the board at 2, I think I would have taken him. And I feel like there would have been an option to really supply him with what he needs going into year 2, because I would essentially just redshirt him as a freshman. But as we know, the New York Jets have a very bad track record of developing young quarterbacks, or lack thereof, right? Not developing guys, putting way too much pressure on them early, not signing enough help to go around them, not building the system around what these quarterbacks are good at, having holes on the offensive line. You name it, the Jets have probably fell short in one area or another throughout the years. It's just an unfortunate fact. Now, of course, that has nothing to do with Darren Muji. He can be looking at Joe Douglas saying, yeah, I'm going to do the opposite that he did and really supply this young quarterback with talent. But again, Dante Moore off the board. It is what it is, and the Jets got to move on. At the end of the day, the Jets are still sitting here with a lot of cap space, top 5 in the NFL. We are still sitting here with a 2nd overall pick, and you know, by all accounts, it's looking like the Las Vegas Raiders are going to be going with Fernando Mendoza. But you can definitely say, okay, well, yes, Mendoza's QB1. But is he the best player in this draft? And if you think the answer is no, he's not. Like, I'm talking number 1 overall player in the class. Well, the Jets are sitting at 2. In other words, they can literally go out and select the top player in the NFL draft. That's a good place to be, right? Again, it doesn't change the cap space. It doesn't change the amount of picks that we have. It doesn't change the order. It just changes the approach. And that assumes that the Jets actually loved Dante Moore, which we don't really know up to this point. I wanted to ask this question, where do we go from here, right? Because there's definitely a sense that I've picked up where it's like dark cloud over the franchise. Next season's going to be a wash. From my standpoint, I'm looking at this offseason as a prime opportunity to load the team up with talent. Load it up with talent. The Jets have what, 8, 9, 10 team needs? We have a talent question mark, right? If you take our best talent and you put it up against the Buffalo Bills, or take your pick on whatever playoff team is out, Denver Broncos, LA Rams, the Jets aren't on the same level, which is a problem. From a depth standpoint, we are also lagging. So if you take our backups and you stack them up against another team's backups, where do we really stand? Again, we're falling short. We were blown off of the field by the Buffalo Bills backups in the final week of the season. So another major question mark. The stage is set to sign talented players, to draft talented players, to address holes on this team, to again increase the talent level, get better, and add depth to this roster. The opportunity is right in front of Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn's face. Now, of course, they have to take advantage of it. They actually have to execute. Again, unlike Joe Douglas, where it's just free agent miss after free agent miss after free agent miss after draft miss after draft miss. Yeah, we actually have to hit on these players. But I'll tell you what, man, there's a lot of teams in football that have a lot of question marks, rebuilding, average, below average teams that are looking at the Jets situation. Dane Brugler literally reported this, right? GMs across the league, NFL teams, multiple NFL teams from across the league are looking at the Jets and are envious of their situation because of the flexibility, which is a really good position to be in. Now, let's talk about the offseason, right? When free agency opens up, what would be the preferred plan of attack? And of course, there's going to be so many videos on this. Free agency opens up mid-March. But I think right now, the way I'm kind of approaching it is really a marriage between free agency and the draft in both 2026 and 2027. If we take a look at the amount of draft capital, right, the overall draft assets that we have, not talking about trade ups and this and that, but just overall flexibility, if we're looking at what we have, 5 1s, 3 2s over the next 2 seasons. 8, in other words, 8 total players. Again, trade ups and whatnot could happen, trade downs could happen. That number could change, but that's a lot of talent. Okay, that is a lot of players walking in the door with serious upside. 8. And we haven't mentioned any day 3 picks. We haven't mentioned any free agency signings. So why I bring that up? My approach, if I'm Darren Muji, when free agency opens up is pretty simple. I think if I was him, I would take 1 to 2 big swings. That's it. That's it. I know it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but, and when I say big swings, I'm talking like contracts worth over $60-ish million. And along with that big free agent signing, or the 2 free agent signings, I want to really go after glue guys, right? Veteran leaders, guys that come in and fit the system and they're bought into the culture and they love Aaron Glenn. And you feel like, okay, yes, they're not coming in at $25-30 million per season, but they can start right now on this Jets team and be an upgrade. I'm talking about the DJ Readers of the world, the Alex Anzalonis, right? Guys that you can bring in at cheaper numbers, right? 15 mil, 16 mil, I'm talking total, like 8 mil per season. John Franklin Myers, maybe a reunion with Brandon Eccles. Maybe if you want to go lock down the safety position by adding like one of those center, the rangy center fielders, go get a bunch of those glue guys that really want to be here. One of the things that I was encouraged about from this season was Darren Muji's ability to look at players from across the NFL. Jawan Briggs, Jarvis Brown-Lee, Harrison Phillips. If you want to talk about the college ranks, you could, feel free, right? Like Malachi Moore looking polished, Armand Membu looking like a slam dunk top 10. Like there were a lot of misses so far. It's too early to call players busts in year one, but there were a lot of non-contributing rookies from this class, and thankfully the New York Jets were not in that position with their first round pick here in Armand Membu. But the point is, I feel good about Darren Muji's ability to seek talent, to evaluate talent and bring these guys into the fold, right, into the mix. So long story short, 1 or 2 long-term building blocks in free agency, and the rest, I'm thinking 1 to 3 year contracts with maybe some older veteran leader types of players that again fit the culture and fit the system, that aren't going to completely break the bank. Now, when it comes to the NFL draft, I have no problems whatsoever going BPA with every pick in the first with our first 4, right? 2, 16, 33, 44. If you are Darren Muji and you pull up to draft night and you say, you know what, we're going to go with the best player on the board with every one of our picks, I'm not going to push back. We have way too many problems on this team for us to reach on a player. And by the way, I'm not talking like, okay, if we're at 16 and we want to take the 21st ranked player, okay, it is what it is. But if we're at 2, I don't want us to be taking the 20th ranked player. If we're at 16, I don't want to be taking the 49th ranked player. When bad 3-win teams start reaching on players, trying to outsmart the rest of the NFL, you can run into a number of issues. It's kind of a safe bet to go with the BPA. And it's such a thrown out term, right? BPA, best player available. The way I view BPA is lowest probability of being a bust, while at the same time, highest probability of being a solid starting NFL player. Superstar's one thing, star's one thing, but at worst, he's a plug and play. Boom, he's in the lineup and you really love the talent. You love the system fit. You don't feel like he's not going to work out. You don't feel like it's some sort of boom or bust type of player. It's just best player available. It's a very safe play. And again, for a team that needs players, talent, and depth, going with that route is not necessarily a bad idea. And I think at 2, there are 3 very, very, very popular names that we're all hearing about. Number 1, Arvell Reese. Linebacker, edge, hybrid type of player, someone who projects to the future really, really well, right? 34-inch arms. He can run a 40 under a 4. Like at the combine, if Arvell Reese decides to run, he's going to run faster than wide receivers. Not all of them. He's not going to be in the 4.3s or anything, but there will be a crop of wide receivers that Arvell Reese is faster than. As a quarterback spy, Arvell Reese is amazing, right? When you talk about like kryptonite to a Drake May, Josh Allen, like these mobile, I don't know who's going to be playing QB in Miami, but the Mahomes of the world, the Lamar Jackson, if you need a player to go hawk down that quarterback, if you need a player to keep the quarterback from getting to the second unit as a rusher, Arvell Reese is amazing at it, being able to shadow and mirror a quarterback's moves to literally like block him, to not, break free and take a 2-yard run and turn it into an 18 or a 20-yard run. Arvell Reese as a quarterback spy is amazing. And again, limited edge rushing experience, but when he did do it this past season, under Matt Patricia, like, the talent is just immense. The strength is immense. The violence, the strength in his hands, it's insane. I mean, there was one rep, I believe it was against an Ohio tackle. He's literally holding the point of attack with one arm on this tackle, waiting, just like he's supposed to do but he's doing it with one arm. The tackle's trying to drive him back, and he's not even moving. And then when it's time to move, he literally throws the tackle aside like he's 120 pounds. Nuts. Arvell Reese's upside is nuts. Now, of course, the question is with Reese and the Jets, can they develop him? Are they capable? Are they smart enough to take a guy in Reese and say, hey, you know what? We're going to maximize your skill set, because much like Dante Moore, Arvell Reese is 20. So he's not coming in as a 24-year-old super polished player. No, he needs to be developed. And is the Aaron Glenn system the right one for Reese? Right? 4-3. Where do you want to line Reese up at? I feel like Reese is a better fit for 3-4, where we can really move him around, which makes the potential Jones hire, right? Durante Jones, the Vikings DB coach who we interviewed for defensive coordinator. I would assume that would be maybe his style that he would want to implement, or Wink Martindale, right? Someone else who the Jets have been linked to a lot. If either of those two guys get the job, then Arvell Reese, his chances of becoming a Jet, I think, go way, way up. The second player, Ruben Bain, 6'4", 270 plus pounds. The guy is just a wrecking ball. Violent, powerful, strength, one of the best run stoppers on the edge, one of the best edge setters in this entire class. The guy just does not move. He does not get bullied at all. He can rush the passer, and if he's not getting sacks, he's affecting the pocket. He's pushing a tackle backwards into the quarterback. He's forcing the quarterback to step up or throw it early or dirt it or escape the pocket, because Bain is just a freaking terror on the edge. Like, he just goes after quarterbacks, and he could, like, if you're a young tackle and you have to play against Ruben Bain, good luck. I mean, Ruben Bain's been on an absolute mission. He's been dominant all year, and he's been dominant in the playoffs. Ruben Bain, I understand the short arms argument, but not only do you have all these physical traits, but you also have the positional flexibility. There are some teams that supposedly view Ruben Bain as a defensive tackle because of the size. Now, if I'm Aaron Glenn, I'm like, okay, well, we need edge rushers, and we need pass rushers, and we need defensive tackles. Ruben Bain's all three of those. In a 4-3, I feel really good about sticking Bain at defensive end on first and second down, being able to anchor down that edge, something that Will McDonald has struggled massively in this season, right? Stopping the run on the edge, having Jermaine Johnson line up on the other side, and then on third downs, right, or obvious passing situations, you can take Bain and you stick him on the inside. And you line him up next to Briggs, who's an effective pass rushing DT. So you have Bain and Briggs on the inside. You take Harrison Phillips out, who's really not a pass rushing threat whatsoever. You still keep JJ on the outside, but then you bring Will McDonald in, fresh legs, pin his ears back, and go hunt the quarterback. Now all of a sudden with those four, you know, you're really looking at some pass rushing upside compared to what we had this past season. So I think Bain, and that's just like, think about all the flexibility that you can do there. That's just with the second pick. That's not, you know, factoring in 16. That's not factoring in 44 or 33 or any free agent signings. Just Bain alone does that. He gives you better run stuffing, better edge setting, better pass rusher, someone who can bounce inside the DT on obvious passing situations to upgrade that position, and then you stick Will McDonald, who's theoretically more fresh on the outside, and you're essentially hiding Will McDonald's weaknesses, which is stopping the run and setting the edge. I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, of course, the last player here, David Bailey, someone who always is getting suggested when it comes to the Jets because of how, man, is he aggressive? Is David Bailey an aggressive player or what? I mean, when he hits the quarterback, you feel it just watching it. And I think the thing that just jumps off the screen when you're watching Bailey, explosion. Explosion off the line. When the ball is snapped, Bailey is already moving. He's the first mover off the defensive line. It is nuts to see Bailey just boom, like he's like a lightning bolt off the defensive line. And with that explosion, not only are you just on top of the tackle early, right? Putting pressure on him. But you open up a lot of different avenues to the quarterback, right? Whether that's you get a great jump and you can kind of bend around the tackle, which that's another thing that David Bailey has is natural bend. Whether it's getting technical with your hands and putting a move on a tackle, whether it's, whipping out the spin move, which David Bailey has as well, or speed to power bull rush. When you can just consistently get that great jump off the D line and you are hitting the tackle before he can get comfortable and really get into his stance, that is a lot to put on a tackle's plate, right? When you can win in multiple areas and you're constantly jumping off the football quick, that screams top end edge rusher. That screams top 5 edge rusher in football. I'm not saying David Bailey's a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL or was going to be, but that trait alone, exploding off the football and then having moves, not just being a one-trick pony, a speed guy or a power guy. But of course, with David Bailey, the couple questions of, does he have the consistent edge setting, run stuffing abilities to be an every down player in a 4-3? I don't know. I'm not going to rule it out. It's just a question that's posed. Because if you're the Jets and you don't feel like he can do that, I mean, you're talking about the 2nd overall pick here. Do you want to essentially draft a rotational player with the 2nd overall pick? I don't know. And then the second concern is, yes, I think he can rush off of a 4-3 system, but again, much like Arvell Reese, you kind of feel like a 3-4 is better fit for his skill set. Such an underrated quality about David Bailey that never gets talked about is his ability to drop into coverage, make plays, read the quarterback's eyes and swat down a ball, read the quarterback's eyes and shift in zone coverage to go, where the ball is set to be thrown to, not to where the ball is currently. He has a good read in coverage, a good feel for coverage, which I really Sonny Styles, same thing. Arvell Reese, not as good in coverage. So, good news. There's multiple players there. There's multiple players that make sense for the Jets. You can argue, okay, maybe a trade back. Fair, but I think the bigger question is, who are these teams coming up for? But again, bottom line, we have cap space. We have extra picks. We have 2 1s. This is an awesome, awesome opportunity. Let's not let the 20-year-old who doesn't want to come out ruin the offseason and say, well, next season's a wash. If Dante Moore was the draft pick, I don't even want to play him anyway at all next year. So think of it this way. We're essentially swapping out a raw 20-year-old quarterback for the best player in the draft. That's a realistic way of looking at it. Now, again, I like Dante Moore's skill set. I still would have taken him at 2. But it's not like, oh, we missed out and this sucks and it is what it is. We get nothing. No, we get the best player in the draft now. So, of course, pros and cons, we have to give and take here. But ultimately, the Jets are in a great position. Now, last thing I want to end off on, something that I feel like is also getting overlooked. The other quarterbacks in the draft. Why Dante Moore makes this choice to go back to Oregon, and now, since that decision, every other quarterback in this class sucks now? No, not in the slightest. There's months before the NFL draft. Months, late April. We're not even in late January. How do we have all the answers? How does everybody have all these answers about this quarterback class when it's January 14th and the season is still ongoing? Think about Michael Penix. Michael Penix, 3rd round pick, 2nd round pick. Nope, top 10 pick when it was all said and done. Bo Nix, 2nd round pick. Day before the draft, Bo Nix is a 2nd round pick. Nope, Denver at 12. By the way, Darren Muji was a part of that front office. JJ McCarthy, some people actually said day 3 pick. Now, of course, JJ McCarthy hasn't really worked out up to this point, but it still doesn't change his draft selection, right? Where he actually was in a trade up with the New York Jets at 11. Jackson Dart, 3rd rounder, weak quarterback class, 3rd rounder, 2nd rounder now, early day 2, 1st round, trading back up into the 1st round. So to act like we have all the answers and everything's all figured out and we know exactly where these guys are going to go is just simply false. We can have an idea. We can have assumptions, we can have guesses, sure. But the idea that, oh, Moore decides to go back to school, now everyone else is undraftable, that's simply not the case. Now, again, who knows? Maybe all of these guys don't work out, but to write literally everybody off in January, there's not one available young quarterback that is worth taking in the draft, that it feels like a stretch. So, look, if I'm Darren Muji, I am heavily scouting Ty Simpson. I'm heavily scouting the quarterbacks in this class, the Trinidad Chamblises of the world, the Garrett Nussmeyers of the world, right? Do your due diligence. So personally, I'm not ruling anything out at this point, right? Like I could imagine, I'm picturing it now, right? Pro days roll around, combine rolls around, and teams are sitting down with Ty Simpson and they're really impressed with his offensive IQ. Right? Or when coaches actually, right now that the season's over, now that coaches can dive into the film. And we have to be really careful about the Draft Insider's player rankings in January, right? Because in their eyes, they could be looking at a player and saying, okay, this is a third round guy, a third round grade here. This guy could be a fourth round grade. But they're also all connected, right? These insiders are talking to GMs, they're talking to coaches and scouts and director of player personnel and college scouting and all these, like, they're all intertwined, right? That's why these mock drafts are changing month to month, because they're talking to coaches and they have different opinions. And they say, you know, it doesn't matter if a draft insider views a player, okay, this guy's a round 4 talent, and he talks to an offensive coordinator or a head coach, and that head coach says, hey, you know what? I love this guy. We're picking in the 20s. I love him. Where do you think that player is going to be going in the next mock draft? It's not going to be going in round 4. So, a lot of time before the draft, a lot of time before free agency. This offseason, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. I cannot wait for it. I have so many video ideas planned, different quarterback options and whatnot, draftable guys, free agent, veteran bridge guys, trade targets, mock off seasons, a lot of fun stuff, and I appreciate you guys, right? I cannot wait to hop on this freaking off season journey with you, and it's just gonna be so much fun, right? Getting all the news, all the reports, following all the buzz and everything, all the mock draft breakdowns. I'm pumped, man. I'm really excited. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below, and as always, go Jets.